Revealed. A German millionaire offers 10 million to a cook who responded in 4 amazing languages. Maria stood at the stove, her hands dusted with flour, the aroma of fresh coffee wafting around her like a warm embrace. Behind the counter of Mabel's diner, she effortlessly danced between sizzling pans and the ordering window, crafting meals that infused the small town of Maplewood with love and togetherness. Every Saturday morning, the regulars would spill in, sharing laughter and stories, their connection as ingrained as the grease that coated the skillet. But the air crackled with anticipation that morning news would soon arrive that would shake them all. Across the diner, Sophia flipped through her phone, her brows knitting together in disbelief. "Mom, you have to see this," she exclaimed, her voice bubbling with excitement. Maria wiped her hands and leaned closer, her heart racing. An eccentric millionaire is challenging cooks everywhere. If you can prepare a 4-language meal, you could win $10 million. The headline blared on the screen. They say if a chef can blend different cultures into a single dish, it's a game changer. What does that even mean? Maria let out a small laugh, brushing off the absurdity, her heart pounding with the thought of competition. Who was she, a single mother with a high school diploma, to step into a culinary battleground? As Sophia chewed on her lip thoughtfully, the chatter around them grew louder. "Some fancy chef from the city will just take the prize," Maria sighed, slumping against the counter. But deep down, something stirred, an ember of hope ignited. However, doubts loomed. "I mean, those chefs went to culinary schools. They have years of experience," she mumbled. A specter of her estranged father crept into her mind, a man who walked out on their family, leaving her with scars and uncertainty. "Who am I to even dream of competing?" As the words spilled from her lips, a wave of determination washed over her. The diner buzzed with excitement, neighbors rallying to support Maria, whispering sweet encouragement that filled her heart with warmth. "You have the heart of a champion, Maria," old Mrs. Flanagan said, her voice thick with emotion. "Besides, you can't let this chance slip away before we continue. I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Maria began experimenting, pouring her heart into each plate, mixing spices and flavors that told the stories of her Mexican heritage and her dreams of something bigger. Yet, as excitement bubbled, jealousy simmered in the air. "Why her? She's just a diner cook," someone muttered behind her back. Suddenly the community, which had once felt like a warm blanket, began to feel stitched together from frayed threads. With each passing day, the contest approached, tension unspooling in the diner. Everyone was caught up in the whirlwind, some rooting for her, while others wore resentment like armor. Just then, she received an unexpected visitor. Her father, the man who had vanished long ago, swaggered back into her life, reigniting a well of emotions she thought she had buried. Behind the bustling scenes of the diner, Maria faced her fears, reclaiming her identity and reuniting with her community. Just as she began to see the light, Klaus's true intentions unfurled, threatening the fragile hopes of a town searching for redemption. The path ahead was laced with trials and choices that would shatter or unite them all. Standing behind the bustling counter on the day of the competition, utensils clutched tightly in her hands, she felt the weight of countless expectations. The diner around her buzzed with tension, the scent of spices swirling in the air. This was her moment. Would she seize it, or would she get lost in the shadows of her past? The room held its breath, and Maria knew she was on the brink of defining herself once and for all. As the clock ticked down, Maria felt the knot in her stomach tighten. Her heart raced like a wild horse, and the voices of her friends and family faded into a murmur. The weight of their hopes sat heavy on her shoulders, mixed with the nagging fear of failure. She glanced at the crowd that had gathered outside Mabel's, faces bright with encouragement, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of being an imposter. "Just breathe, Mom," Sophia whispered softly, noticing her tension. "You've got this." For a moment, Maria allowed herself to meet her daughter's gaze, drawing strength from that sparkle of faith. Her hands, once steady and confident, now trembled slightly as she reached for the fresh ingredients laid out before her. Vibrant bell peppers for color, fragrant herbs for depth, and the staple spices she had grown up with. She envisioned the challenge ahead, melding 4 languages into one dish: Mexican, Italian, French, and Thai. The vibrant layers of flavor danced in her mind, echoing stories of family gatherings, bustling street markets, and late-night dinners with friends. Each ingredient she chose told a story of the life she wanted, a life where she could create magic. She began with the heart of her dish, tamales, the rich, doughy treats of her childhood. But instead of just masa, she folded in ricotta from Italy, making each bite creamy and rich. As she worked, she could hear people muttering behind her, some negative, some supportive. "Yes, just a diner cook. You can do it, Maria." The conflicting voices merged into a single rhythm, the heartbeat of the moment. She added a splash of soy sauce to the masa mix, recalling her first experience with Asian cuisine, surprising herself with the fusion of cultures. Life was a blend. After all, she had learned that through every struggle, every heartache. Then came the sauce, a tangy, coconut-infused creation that sang of Thai citrus, sweetened slightly with agave to echo her heritage. Each stir was a step towards reclaiming her narrative, a declaration to those who doubted her. Outside, she felt the energy of her community pressing in. Each face she saw reflected in the diner window was more than just a spectator. They were her lifeline, there to remind her of the fire that burned inside and of the woman she was becoming. Nerves twisted in her stomach. She couldn't help but glance at the door. Klaus, looking as suave as ever despite the years, watched closely, a sneer playing at the corners of his mouth. What was he doing here? Did he come to gloat? Or did he see something in her worth acknowledging? "Focus, Maria," she muttered under her breath. This day wasn't about him. It was about her and the community that had brought her this far. The meal began to take shape, revealing itself as a mosaic of her life experiences, choices, and dreams. With the final touches in place, she looked around. The diner was alive with whispers and anticipation. Then came a moment of clarity. This wasn't just about winning money. It was about finding her voice, her strength. The announcer's voice cut through the noise, signaling the countdown to presentation. With one last deep breath, she plated her masterpiece, a dish born from love and struggle, a testament to all that she could endure. As the judges approached, Maria's mind raced. Would they recognize the heart she poured into her creation? Would they see her not just as a cook, but as a force to be reckoned with? Just as she was about to take her place at the front, a loud gasp erupted from the crowd. Maria turned, only to see Klaus step forward, a smirk plastered on his face. "Is this your best, Maria? I thought you could do better," he taunted. A wave of fury and determination surged through her, mingling with the fear. This was her story now, one that demanded she face her past and embrace her future. But as tension thickened in the air, something unexpected happened, something that could change everything for her. What would it mean to stand up to Klaus in front of everyone? Maria realized, at that moment, she had a choice to make. Would she let the whispers of doubt drown her out, or rise above it all to claim her place? The stage was set, and she was ready to confront not just her father, but her deepest fears. The moment of truth loomed closer, and the crowd leaned forward, holding their breath. Maria stood tall, heart racing, ready for whatever came next. Would she swallow her fear, or let it ignite her spirit? Deep inside, Maria felt the world around her shrink, narrowing down to a sharp focus on Klaus. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, and she could hear the murmurs rise and fall like the tide. Each second felt elongated, stretching the moment as she prepared to respond to him. The smirk on his face was like a challenge thrown down, one she didn't intend to ignore. Her heart raced as she tried to summon the strength within her. "You know what, Klaus? This isn't about what you think of me," she declared, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "It's about who I am and where I come from." The spectators exchanged surprised glances, their breaths hitching. They hadn't expected this. Speaking her truth felt liberating, and she could almost feel the warmth of her community as support wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. This was her moment, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. And yes, she continued, holding Klaus's gaze, I'm a diner cook. But what does that have to do with my dreams? Who I am isn't defined by your opinion. The words flowed out like a melody, infusing her with newfound confidence. I'm reshaping what it means to be a chef, using every piece of my heritage. The corners of Klaus's mouth twitched in surprise, and for the first time, he seemed uncertain. The crowd began to murmur, a wave of approval surging through the onlookers. Maria took a breath, drawing in the energy that surrounded her. She felt that fire reignite within an undeniable power that no one could take away. Everyone here has a story, she said, nodding towards the crowd. These ingredients aren't just spices, they're a piece of my life. She gestured to her dish, bursting with colors and aromas. Every flavor has a memory, a lesson. Someone in the crowd called out, We believe in you, Maria. Cheers erupted, drowning out the whispers of doubt. Emotion welled up inside her, filling her chest until it almost hurt. If she could inspire even one person in this room, then it was worth it, Klaus scoffed, but she was no longer afraid. Laugh all you want. Today, I'm showing everyone what I can create. This isn't just food. It's a celebration of cultures, of who I am. She saw Sophia's proud face lit up in the crowd, and it steered Maria's focus back to the task at hand. It was time to finalize her presentation, to share her creation. Nervous energy shifted into determination as she faced the judges. The lead judge, an older woman with discerning eyes, leaned forward, intrigued. Tell us about your dish, Maria. With heart racing, she began to explain the layers. Her childhood, the warmth of her mother's kitchen, the flavors of Italy that had danced around her family table, the zest of Thai spices that sparked her curiosity. Klaus stepped back, shadows of doubt creeping across his face as he recognized her passion was authentic, raw. The crowd hushed, mesmerized by her narrative. As she finished, Maria felt utterly vulnerable yet powerful, like she was standing on the pinnacle of the moment, ready to leap. I made this dish for all of us, for our stories, our struggles, and the beauty we bring together. The applause was resounding. Each clap was a validation of her journey, and as she soaked it all in, she realized this moment was only the beginning. But in the back of her mind, a flicker still remained. What would happen when it was time for the judges to deliberate? Would they see her for who she truly was, or merely a chef driven by revenge against a past she wanted to escape? As Klaus slipped away, Maria turned her gaze away from the exit and looked back at the judges, her heart pounding, unsure of what the outcome would reveal. Would they appreciate her creation as she did, or would she have to fight again for her place? With anticipation thick in the air and a profound sense of hope bubbling inside her, she braced for whatever came next. Would the judges recognize the journey she represented, or had she opened herself up for another round of rejection? The moments stretched, each tick of the clock reverberating in her chest. As the judges huddled together, whispering and scribbling notes, Maria felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, the unknown yawning before her. She could see their furrowed brows and occasional glances towards her dish, the tension inside the room thickening like a simmering sauce. What if they don't get it? A voice in her head nagged. What if all this was for nothing? But then she thought of her community, of the people who had cheered her on. Their support painted a vibrant picture in her mind, her mother's smile, Sophia's encouraging words, the laughter shared over meals. She clenched her fists, feeling the warmth of their belief fueling her resolve. If Klaus doubted her, well, she had more important things to worry about. Finally, the lead judge cleared her throat and turned to face the audience, her expression thoughtful. We've tasted many dishes today, but Maria's creation stood out. The ensuing silence felt monumental. The spectators leaned in closer, eager for what was to come. Her dish conveyed a story, a tapestry of cultures woven from love and tradition. It was not just food. It was a heartfelt melody connecting each ingredient to her journey. As she spoke, Maria felt her heart swell with hope. This wasn't just a competition for her. It was a message about identity, resilience, and the beauty of embracing one's roots. The judge paused, letting her words sink in. That is why I believe Maria deserves to move forward in this competition. The room erupted in cheers once more, the sound rising like a comforting wave. But her heart dropped again as the judge continued. However, Maria's breath hitched. The word hung in the air like a heavy fog. She braced herself, steeling against a potential blow. Not everyone will agree with our decision, the judge said, her voice steady. Some will feel threatened by innovation and change. It was Klaus's smirk that flashed through her mind. She could almost feel his disdain wrapping around her like a shroud. But no, she pushed that thought away. This was her moment. The judge concluded, we need to see more from Maria, more depth in her creativity during the next round. Light laughter and applause surrounded her, but the weight of additional expectations settled like a new layer on her shoulders. Yes, she had made it through, but now, the real challenge loomed large ahead of her. Could she match that level of expectation? Could she deepen her story even more? As she stood there, overwhelmed by a whirlwind of pride and anxiety, she spotted Klaus again, lurking at the edge of the crowd. His eyes narrowed, calculating. She met his gaze with defiance. His presence reached into her thoughts, but she wouldn't let it drown her spirit. Bring it on, she whispered under her breath. Maria stepped down from the stage, her legs a little shaky but her heart full. Sophia rushed toward her, arms wide open. You did it. I'm so proud of you, Maria. I'm just getting started, she smiled, adrenaline still bubbling inside. The cheers of her supporters echoed, brightening her path. Yet, as the applause faded and the crowd began to disperse, one question still lingered in her mind. How could she elevate her dish while honoring her roots? With shaking hands, she reached for her phone to jot down ideas, determination shining in her eyes. She wouldn't just play it safe, she would splash vibrant colors on her canvas. But the weight of the unknown was still heavy. As she walked out of the arena, a thought struck her. What if Klaus revealed her past to the judges? What if he turned their cheers into whispers of doubt? With a mix of anticipation and trepidation swirling inside her, Maria felt the ground shift beneath her once again. In this new phase of her journey, she had to fight not just to create but to protect her identity. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, and she stood poised on the edge of what could be an exhilarating or devastating next step. Would she be able to protect her dream, or was she stepping into the lion's den? Maria stepped into the bright, bustling kitchen, the familiar clatter of pots and pans wrapping around her like a warm embrace. Yet, this time, it felt different. There was a buzz of excitement in the air, but also a heavy weight of expectation. Today wasn't just about cooking. It was about proving something deeper. All right, Maria, let us hear your ideas. Sophia beamed, arranging ingredients on the counter as she leaned in. You'll make something even more amazing, right? Yeah, Maria hesitated, biting her lip. I want to, but how do I capture more of my story? More than just flavors? Sophia's eyes sparkled with encouragement. Why not weave in a memory? Something that connects the dish to your roots? You know, the stories of your family, your culture. Maria smiled, the thought igniting a flicker of excitement. Memories swirled through her mind. Her grandmother stirring a pot of rich mole on a Sunday, the scent of cumin and coriander wafting through their small home. Could she channel that into a dish? An heirloom mole with contemporary twists, Maria exclaimed, picturing the vibrant colors in her head. I want to highlight the depth of flavors while also introducing fresh elements that mirror my journey. Sophia nodded vigorously, yes. That's it. But remember, take your time. You don't have to rush. As Maria gathered her ingredients, Klaus's smirk floated back into her thoughts. She heard whispers about his connections and influence. What if he convinced the judges she wasn't good enough? Focus, she whispered to herself, silencing the doubt. Create like your life depends on it. The hours flew by as she chopped, blended, and tasted. Each ingredient felt like a brushstroke on a canvas, painting her ancestry and future. The moles simmered on the stove, deepening in color, thickening with memories. But every so often, shadows of doubt crept back in. She wondered if the judges would taste her heart, or merely evaluate her technique and presentation. What if they didn't see the love and effort behind every ingredient? With the first day of preparation behind her, Maria felt a surge of determination. Tomorrow, I'll make them understand, she vowed, watching the mole bubble gently. She carefully gathered her spices, each one evoking stories of her lineage. Yet, as she set up for the next day, Maria received a startling text from Sophia. Klaus says he has found some dirt on you. What if he shares it? Panic surged through her, making her heart race. What details about her past could he twist? Tears threatened to spill. She could already envision whispers erasing the cheers she had fought so hard to earn. Not happening, she said firmly, wiping her eyes. I won't let him take this from me. The next morning dawned bright, yet heavy with tension. As Maria entered the kitchen, the judges stood waiting, their expressions unreadable. She began laying out her mise en place, forcing herself to breathe, to believe in her creation. But Klaus stood off to the side, his gaze piercing. He leaned slightly to whisper something to a fellow competitor, and laughter erupted, slicing through the focus in the air. Stay strong, she whispered to herself, pouring her passion into every chop, every stir. She needed this dish to be more than just a meal. It had to be a message to as the clock ticked down. Maria felt the pull of her roots and the energy of the people supporting her surge through her veins. It was time to stand tall and proud. She wouldn't hide from her past. But just before serving, Klaus stepped forward, a smirk plastered on his face. Are you ready for the real challenge, Maria? He leaned in, his voice dripping with condescension. The truth is about to come out, and it's going to change everything. Her heart raced, and she locked eyes with him, sensing a storm brewing. Would she be able to hold on to her dreams and dive into battle headfirst? Or would her story unravel before her very eyes? Maria's heart pounded in her chest as Klaus stepped back, letting his words hang heavy in the air. The other contestants shot wary glances at her, their excitement now tinged with curiosity and apprehension. Could he really derail her with a few whispered half-truths? Don't let him get to you, Maria thought, trying to push the shadows of doubt away. She took a deep breath and focused on her preparation. The mole was simmering perfectly, the aroma wrapping around her like a warm hug. This was her moment. She had to stay grounded in her purpose, in her roots. This dish wasn't just about flavors. It was about her life, her family, and her heritage. Just then, the head judge, a tall woman with sharp features and a keen gaze, beckoned Maria forward. We'd like to know about your dish, she said, tilting her head. What inspired it? All eyes were on Maria, and for a moment, she felt as if she was standing on a tightrope, teetering between confidence and fear. She could hear Klaus snickering behind her, the sound echoing like a dark cloud threatening to overshadow her bright moment. Taking a deep breath, she recounted the Sunday mornings in her grandmother's kitchen. We would gather around the stove, the smell of mole filling the air. It was more than just food. It was love, tradition, and family, she said, her voice trembling slightly but gaining strength. This mole is a reflection of my journey, enriched with vibrant elements that represent my growth. The judges nodded, intrigued by her sincerity. Maria felt a flicker of resolve. Maybe Klaus couldn't steal that away from her. No matter what he thought he had on her, her story was hers alone. As she plated her dish, she focused on the vibrant colors. The deep, rich browns of the mole contrasted beautifully with the fresh, bright greens of cilantro and the splashes of tangy lime. It wasn't just a meal. It was a depiction of confrontation and hope. She glanced toward Klaus, his smug smile faltering for a brief moment as their eyes locked. Here goes nothing, she whispered, sending a prayer into the universe. Her dish reached the judges, and they took their first bites. Maria noticed their faces shift slightly at the flavors. Their brows furrowed in thought, but no smiles yet. She held her breath, praying they would understand the heart she had poured into every aspect. Klaus, seemingly frustrated that her creation was gaining their attention, leaned over to whisper something again. But this time Maria didn't turn to look. She would not give him the satisfaction. Instead, she embraced the tension, channeling it into resolve. She was more than enough. Suddenly, one of the judges stood up, a shocked expression blooming across his face. This is incredible. The depth of flavor tells a wonderful story, Maria, he proclaimed. A wave of murmurs spread through the kitchen as applause began to swell from the onlookers. But just as Maria started to feel a surge of pride, Klaus cut in, his voice dripping with manipulation. Yes, but I wonder what the judges would think if they knew about the little mishap in your past? How about that time you? His voice faded into a murmur as everyone turned to look at her, the air thick with anticipation and suspicion. Maria felt her stomach drop. Had he found something to unearth that would undermine everything she had worked for? Enough. Maria's voice rang out, surprising even herself. My past doesn't define me. This dish does. The energy shifted in the room. The other competitors began to whisper, and uncertainty danced in their eyes. Whatever Klaus was insinuating didn't matter anymore. She had to fight for her narrative. As the tension built, the head judge stepped forward with an intense look. Maria, we need to talk. There may be something we should get to the bottom of regarding your history. Maria's breath hitched. Did she have the strength to confront whatever they were about to reveal? Would her story stand unshaken, or would Klaus finally succeed in tearing her down? The moment of truth was here, and it was about to change everything. Maria's heartbeat thundered in her ears as the head judge's words settled like a weight on her chest. The room felt surreal, a world spinning where she stood vulnerable and exposed. She steadied herself, drawing from a deep well of courage she hadn't fully realized was there. Can I sit? The judge asked, pulling up a chair and fixing her gaze on Maria, the rest of the room falling into a tense silence. The hum of chatter faded. It was just Maria and this formidable woman now. Maria, the judge said softly, we've heard whispers. Klaus has a reputation for wielding his words like weapons, but we need to understand your truth. Just then, Klaus smirked, leaning back against the counter like a cat that had cornered its prey. The way he watched her, with his eyes glinting like knives, spurred a fire in Maria. It was time for the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it felt. She had come too far to let someone else write her narrative. Whatever Klaus is trying to say, she began, her voice steadier now. I've made mistakes in my life. We all have. She locked eyes with each judge, gauging their reactions. But I've learned. I've grown. Cooking is not just about the food, but the legacy we build and the lessons we bring to the table. My past, it's shaped me, yes, but it doesn't control me. The judges exchanged glances, as if considering the weight of her words. The murmurs from the crowd felt like a gust of wind, swirling around her, and she grasped the edge of the table, steadying herself even further against the pressure. Klaus opened his mouth to retort, but the head judge shot him a glare that silenced him instantly. And what did you learn, Maria? She queried, genuine curiosity igniting in her eyes. Maria inhaled, recalling her grandmother's gentle hands grazing hers, teaching her that cooking was a map of love, forgiveness, and strength. I learned that every flavor has a story. Every ingredient comes together to create something beautiful, just like our lives. A deep breath escaped her, a thread of vulnerability woven into her strength. The audience watched intently, some faces sympathetic, others skeptical. Klaus adjusted his posture, clearly annoyed by the unexpected twist in the conversation. What happened? One of the other judges asked, leaning forward, intrigued. You mentioned mistakes. Was there a pivotal moment? Years ago, I struggled, Maria admitted, looking down momentarily. I wasn't being true to myself. I got caught up in what people expected rather than what felt right in my heart. It hurt my family, and it hurt me. But I learned that it's never too late to change direction. Food has saved me and allowed me to share my journey. A few audience members nodded, their expressions softening. Maria felt a shift in the atmosphere. She realized, just like her dish, she needed openness to flourish. Klaus interjected, but those mistakes are part of who you are. Do the judges really want to reward someone with such a questionable history? Maria turned abruptly, catching his eye. It's not about what I was. It's about who I am now. We all have our darkness. But we also have the power to choose light, to transform. Just like this mole, it's rich, complicated, and you can't separate the bitter from the sweet. Silence lingered. The judges' faces reflected contemplation, and for a moment, Maria dared to hope. Had she reached them? Were they seeing her for more than Klaus's slander? Then the head judge stood, breaking the stillness. Thank you for your honesty, Maria, she said, her tone shifting. But the road ahead may get even more challenging. A storm is coming. Are you ready for that? Maria's breath caught in her throat. What storm? A quick glance at Klaus revealed a mix of disdain and amusement. His expression seemed to say he was just waiting for the right moment to strike again. Ready as I'll ever be, she replied, determination rising within her as the audience buzzed with low whispers. The next challenge teetered on the horizon, an unforeseen tsunami that promised to crash into her world. Little did she know, there were secrets waiting to break, and the real battle for truth was barely just beginning. The tension in the room was palpable. Maria could almost taste the uncertainty in the air, a mix of anxiety and fleeting hope. She watched as the head judge attempted to regain control. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady but firm. "For the next phase, we will not only be judging culinary skills, but the ability to adapt. Each contestant will have to prepare a dish that represents their cultural roots while also adding an unexpected twist." A murmur swept through the crowd. Maria's heart raced with both excitement and apprehension. Would this challenge be her saving grace or her downfall? "Maria," the judge continued, her eyes narrowing slightly, "with your background, this is your moment to showcase the true essence of your culinary journey. But remember, a storm doesn't just test our resilience. It reveals our character." As the judge finished her speech, Klaus snickered, making little effort to hide his disdain. "Let us see if you can actually deliver, Maria. I'm betting on a grand disaster." His words twisted in Maria's stomach, but she felt the embers of determination reignite. She had fought hard to be here. She could not let Klaus extinguish that spark. "Can we meet back here in an hour?" the judge asked, breaking her concentration. "You'll also need to submit a brief note describing your dish. Use your words to build your legacy." As the contestants dispersed to their stations, Maria took a moment to breathe deeply. She closed her eyes, envisioning the flavors she wanted to bring together. Her grandmother's rich sauces, the spices that filled the air every holiday, the warmth of family gatherings, it all surged through her. She began gathering ingredients, her mind racing. What would be the twist? Mustering her memories, she recalled a dish she had perfected at a small bistro, a savory goulash inspired by her heritage with a hint of vibrant, tropical fruit. It was bold. It was unexpected. It was her. "Time's ticking, Maria," Klaus called from across the room, throwing off her concentration, but she refused to let his taunts affect her. Setting up her workspace, she found her rhythm. Slicing through the vegetables, she let the past wash over her, the failures, the triumphs, her family's laughter, and the quiet moments with her grandmother's recipes. She imagined the comfort her food had brought to so many and the warmth of shared meals on cold nights. Meanwhile, the judges walked from one station to another, observing the contestants, their expressions unreadable. Maria glanced around, then focused fiercely on her task. Each chop of the knife felt like a cathartic release. She was not just cooking a dish, but reclaiming a part of herself. The storm loomed like a shadow, but she would face it head-on. She might not know what the future held, but she was ready to embrace the challenge. As the clock ticked down, Maria plated the goulash with a vibrant slice of mango on the side and a sprinkle of fresh cilantro. It sparkled under the studio lights, a fusion of flavors and cultures, her heart laid bare. Just as she stepped back to take a breath, she felt a presence beside her. Klaus leaned in, his voice low and menacing. "I hope you realize, Maria, the truth isn't just in the food. It's in the stories you tell. And I know exactly how to turn yours into a nightmare." His words sent a chill down her spine, but she straightened. "You don't scare me, Klaus. I'll fight for who I am." But as she turned back to the judges, she caught the head judge's gaze drifting towards something outside the room, a flicker of intrigue on her face. The crowd was beginning to murmur again, this time with an entirely different energy. Maria's heart raced anew. What could be happening? What had captured everyone's attention? The head judge raised her hand. "Everyone, please." Her voice rang out, pulling the focus back to her. "We have a surprise guest with an intriguing proposal for our competitors." Maria's mind spun. What could this mean? Could this be the opportunity she always dreamed of, or a new storm brewing on the horizon? As the anticipation crackled in the air, Maria braced herself for whatever revelation awaited her. It was coming. She could feel it. Would she face it with courage, or would it sweep her away? The room buzzed with excitement, the atmosphere thickening with curiosity and wonder. As the head judge continued, Maria strained to catch every word. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice becoming more alive with each sentence, "allow me to introduce our surprise guest. A culinary enthusiast with a keen eye for talent. He has made a name for himself in the world of gastronomy, and today he is here to challenge each of you in a unique way." A man stepped into the room, his presence commanding immediate attention. He was tall, silver-haired, and impeccably dressed, exuding an air of confidence that made Maria's heart race. The judges, who had been so stoic moments before, now appeared energized, exchanging excited glances. The challenge is simple, the guest continued, a glimmer in his eye. $10 million will be awarded to the cook who can prepare a dish that not only tells a story of their heritage, but can also be effectively communicated in 4 languages of their choice. Gasps filled the room, and Maria's breath hitched. 10 million. It was a staggering amount, a life-changing opportunity. But what would that entail? Each contestant will present their dish and explain its significance. However, you will need to incorporate at least 4 different languages into your description. The man paused, his gaze sweeping over the group, landing briefly on Maria. It's about your culture, your voice, and how you can share it with the world. Klaus's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and anger flashing across his face. This isn't a talent show. This is absurd. But as he started to protest, he was silenced by the crowd's enthusiasm. The atmosphere shifted. The tension that had gripped the contestants moments ago was replaced with a surge of adrenaline. This was no ordinary task. It was a chance to elevate their stories, to show the world who they really were. Maria's mind raced. She felt the weight of the challenge resting on her shoulders. It wasn't just about cooking. It was about storytelling and identity. She thought of her grandmother, who taught her not just about recipes, but about legacy. What languages could she choose? Spanish for her roots, English for clarity, and perhaps a sprinkle of German and French for flair? As the excitement crescendoed, Maria felt the fire inside her flare up again. This was more than just cooking. It was a stage to not only showcase her dish, but also embrace her journey. The hours she spent honing her skills, the love poured into every meal, it all came rushing back. You think you can just throw money at this competition and sway everyone? Klaus yelled, his arrogance seeping through again. This isn't about cash. It's about real talent. But his words fell flat against the loud murmuring of the audience, eager and inspired. Maria glanced around, taking in the expressions of her fellow contestants. They were animated, eyes glittering with determination. The clock was ticking, and Maria knew she had to act fast. She quickly refocused on her dish, preparing not just to impress the judges, but to tell the world her vibrant story through flavors and languages. Just as she was about to return to her workstation, she caught sight of the guest talking to the judges, his hands animated as if he was painting a picture of possibility. What was he saying? Was he leaning toward someone or something? Her stomach stirred with curiosity and a hint of dread. Had he already found his favorite? Or was he still navigating through the sea of talent in the room? Taking a deep breath, Maria steadied herself. The challenge had transformed. It was bigger, tougher, but she wouldn't back down now. This time, with 10 million in stakes and her heart in the mix, she would bring her heritage to life. That a sudden thought crossed her mind. What if she lost herself in the presentation? What if in all the excitement, she missed the chance to genuinely connect? The clock continued its relentless counting, and as she turned back toward her station, Klaus sneered from across the room. Good luck, Maria. You're going to need it, and it's going to take a lot more than your grandma's recipes to win this one. Deep down, Maria felt the determination swell again. A fire ignited not just to win, but to share her story. With each step towards her station, a question lingered in her mind. Would she seize this opportunity to change her life forever, or would she let it slip away like so many things before? With the pressure mounting, Maria knew the art of cooking had just opened up into something deeply personal. Could she convey her heart in 4 languages? Or was this challenge set to expose her vulnerabilities in ways she never expected? Maria stood at her station, the vibrant colors of her ingredients almost singing to her. The clock ticked ominously, urging her forward. $10 million and a chance to tell her story were on the line, but the real weight rested on her heart. This wasn't just about the competition anymore. It was a pivotal moment to reclaim her narrative from the shadows of her past. With each chop of fresh vegetables and sprinkle of spices, memories washed over her family dinners, her grandmother's laughter, the warmth of traditions, and the rich history embedded in every flavor. She could picture her grandmother humming while stirring a pot of mole on the stove, the scents melding in the air, wrapping everyone in a cocoon of love. Those memories anchored her like roots. Focus, Maria, she whispered to herself, pushing aside the doubt that Klaus had planted. $10 million could change everything. But that wasn't why she was determined to win. She was here to honor her family, her culture, and herself. She had to show the world that she was more than just a diner cook. As she prepared her dish, the language swirl began to form in her mind. Spanish and English for her roots, and a dash of French and Thai to honor her journey. The head judge's words echoed in her thoughts. A storm reveals character. Would she rise or falter? One by one, she gathered her ingredients. Thinking of their story, the fresh cilantro representing renewal, the ripe mangoes symbolizing joy, and the complex mole connecting her past with her dreams for the future. It was a canvas where every flavor mattered, every narrative woven together like the threads of a tapestry. Just as Maria was pouring her heart into plating, she felt Klaus loom over her shoulder, the scent of disdain wafting off him. This is a recipe for disaster, Maria. You'll never impress them with words alone. His voice dripped with scorn, but Maria stood her ground. I don't need to impress anyone but myself, she responded, her voice unwavering. She wouldn't let his poison seep through her resolve. This was her moment, and she'd own it. Time slipped away as she finished her dish, laying down the rich, earthy mole beside a bed of color. With a deep breath, she began writing her note, infusing it with passion and authenticity, a blend of languages creating a dialogue that felt as natural as breathing. Then came the moment of truth. Stepping forward, she stood before the judges, her heart pounding like a drum. Today I present a dish that represents not just my heritage, but my journey, a goulash infused with my grandmother's mole, brightened by fresh mango and guided by the food of my ancestors, she began. Esto es un voyage, a story told in flavors. Je suis ici pour partager ma vérité. The words flowed seamlessly, dancing across tongue and dish like a celebration of cultures. The judges appeared captivated, nodding as she spoke, their eyes bright with intrigue. Maria could see them connecting pieces of her narrative, tasting not just her dish, but every experience she laid bare. Each word rang true from her heart, resonating with her past, while carving out space for the future. As she finished, she looked around, feeling the weight lift. She had shared not just a meal, but a piece of her soul. Applause erupted, sounding like a tide of affirmation washing over her, a tide that drowned out the whispers of doubt. Especially Klaus asked that in that moment. She realized that she had triumphed over her fears. She faced Klaus's calculating gaze directly, refusing to back down. The storm she had braced for was not about to shape her. She would shape it instead. The head judge, visibly impressed, spoke with warmth. Maria, your dish is not only a fusion of flavors, but a celebration of identity. We need more cooks who can share their stories on such grand stages. As the judges deliberated, Klaus's frustrated snarl twisted his face. But it didn't matter anymore. Maria had found her strength. When the results were revealed, she could scarcely hold her breath. The winner of this round, the one who truly embodied the spirit of this competition, is the judge paused for effect. Maria? The cheers erupted, echoing around the room like a symphony. Tears of joy streamed down her cheeks, mingling with laughter and relief. She jumped, her heart bursting as she embraced Sophia, warm cheers from her community enveloping them both. But something shifted in Klaus, a glimpse of defeat mixed with newfound respect flickering in his eyes. His posture straightened slightly, maybe seeing her in a new light. As she soaked in the support, Maria felt the final ties of her past loosen, allowing her to step fully into her power. The journey wasn't over, challenges still lay ahead, but she had transformed. She could see it reflected in every smile and cheer, a collective rise symbolizing hope and resilience. The storm had revealed her character, and it was radiant. Maria held her head high. She was more than a cook now. She was a storyteller ready to embrace whatever came next. Now, stand with her. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is what keeps this going. Comment your reactions and feelings about this triumphant ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of rallying together for this channel.